There's a ridiculous amount of vanilla on it.
It has a certain, like a thickness to it, like a coating thickness to it.
It's gonna coat your throat with vanilla.
Definitely.
Maybe some coconut porter.
I wouldn't shove it down your throat, but you know.
Hey, but you know, if it was there, you'd say, that tastes like vanilla.
Ian just got me too'd.
You know, I've just been experiencing the mouthful of this evening, which has been filling.
Cheers.
You've stumbled on into the Tap Takeover Podcast. Welcome back to the Tap Takeover Podcast. This is a special tasting episode. We've got the culmination of our huge contest, our Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit from Mikerphone Contest. We've got 3 special guests, 3 podcasters, me, Jim, and Andy. Let's go around the horn and introduce ourselves and kind of put some names with the voices. So for me, this is Alex.
This is Jim.
Andy here.
Hey, Kyle from 1840 Brewing.
This is Ian.
This is Joel. Well, welcome to our guests. Thank you for entering the contest. If you guys want to tell us a little bit about your experience with the contest and how you won. Joel, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just scrolling through Facebook and saw someone had tagged me in the contest. I'm a huge fan of Mikerphone Brewing, so of course I had to enter.
Ian, what was your experience like?
I got lucky. Someone backed out, and I won the spot to be here to try these great beers. Big fan of Mikerphone, and
So, Andy, tell us about the fellow who backed out. He had kind of a family emergency, but we want to at least mention his name, even though he couldn't be here.
Nicholas Whitaker actually won the second spot after Joel for the contest here. He had to back out today at a family medical emergency, so we tossed it out of Milwaukee Beer Trader. Got about 25-30 people and just set a random number generator, and that's how Ian got in last minute on this epic tasting we're about to do.
Awesome. Our hearts go out to Nick and his family. We hope everything works out for you. But we're here on a very special day. There's a birthday party going on. We're here at 1840. Kyle, tell us about your brewery and what folks can experience coming on in here.
We do a lot of barrel aging and blending, a lot of fresh, different, unique types of yeast and process-driven beers as well. It was a fun night. These guys said that they had this collection of Mikerphone beer and that they were looking for a place to host this tasting, and I eagerly accepted that challenge. So happy to have them here and looking forward to tasting through all these exceptional beers.
Kyle, you've been on the podcast before. No stranger to the strange ways of the Tap Takeover Podcast.
Absolutely.
But we appreciate you having us. If you haven't listened to that episode, make sure you go back and take a listen. A lot of fun technical knowledge about barrel aging and blending. But right now we're going to talk about the original, the OG, the Smells Like Bean Spirit, not the Imperial, not any sort of additives on this one. What kind of things are you guys getting out of this?
So how old is this now? I mean, this has been aging for a little while.
A little more than a year, I would say. A little more than a year. And at 8%, it's right on the verge of a beer that you would want to put into your cellar. But, that's the fun experiments that we like to run on the podcast. Just kind of toss the stuff in the cellar and see how it ages. What do you think? How's this one holding up, Jim?
Yeah, so still getting plenty of maple on the nose. So still a pretty big stout here, even at 8%.
Yeah, I think to your point, Alex, it's at 8%. It's kind of just, it's not going to hold up to time as well, right? But the maple is still popping. Just a little thin overall, I think, because I'm missing some of those residual sugars you expect for a beer you've been aging in a big A stout. So again, looking forward to the Imperial version.
And Ian, what are you getting out of this?
definitely the maple. Coffee tastes a little burnt to me, like a thin and kind of maybe smoky.
Yeah, I'd say a little acidic, a little astringent taste going on there. Yeah, it's definitely not one where the coffee's held up at all, especially over that much aging. Joel, what are you experiencing on this first beer?
Well, the same thing. I picked up the burnt coffee flavor in there for sure. It's still good beer, but it, like you said, Kyle, it's on the thin side too for what I like.
Well, I think it's time to get into the Imperial versions, and for that we're gonna do that off the air. and we're going to come back in at about halftime and talk about some of our favorite versions of this very, very special tasting of Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit.
So before we jump right into it, what are some of the versions or varietals that you guys are looking forward to try? I mean, we've got all of them. Which ones are you most looking forward to?
I like the vanilla noise.
The marshmallow one, I think, would be pretty interesting.
I love we all pick different ones. Of course, I'm going to say barrel-aged version because that's my jam.
Yeah.
All right, how about you, Andy? Which one are you most looking forward to?
I got to go with Kyle. I've had the barrel aged before, and it's simply just a phenomenal beer. I'm looking forward to doing that again.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the Super Imperial. How that's going to taste.
That one's like double the ingredients on everything, right? Yeah, that one's pretty fun. For me, I'm a big fan of hazelnuts. I really like that Untitled Art barrel-aged hazelnut. I really want to see how this one stacks up. Let's take this opportunity to take a little break, and we will be back with our verdict on the first half of the lineup.
And welcome back to halftime here at the Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit Contest winning time. We're having an absolute fantastic time here at 1840 in Bayview, Wisconsin. We're here with our contest winners, Joel and Ian. And guys, what do you think of the night so far? We're only at halftime.
It's been great. I'm a huge fan of this beer, and we've had a lot of it already.
Seven to be accurate. Ian, what are you thinking so far?
So far, I think they've all been pretty good. I am surprised at some of the flavors, and I'm really looking forward to this one.
And Alex, what is this one?
So we're at halftime here, so we've tried 7 of the beers. We have the barrel aged in our glass, which we will get back to in just a second for a live tasting on that one. But at first we wanted to talk about the first 7 beers. We've already had, in order, the regular bean spirit, which we tried live. You guys heard that one. We've got the Imperial Bean Spirit, the Vanilla Bean Spirit, which was the incredible line, Crazy Glee State, which I think Mikerphone learned quite a bit from. Every single release that they've had since then has been pretty smooth. And that includes the double maple, the decadent, the cafe con leche, the special roast, leading into the barrel-aged Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit, which was released at Smells Like a Beer Fest, which Andy and I were able to attend, and we recorded an entire episode. Make sure to go back and listen to that one. But let's get some reactions on the first 7 beers. So, Kyle, what do you think was your favorite and maybe least favorite from these first 7 beers?
I mean, let's just start with least favorite. That's easy. It was the first one because it was just a lower ABV. It had been aged for a long time. And then we got to try all these really cool beers that are an Imperial version with lots of fun flavors in them. Whether it's vanilla or cinnamon or chocolate or all the things we've done, it's been an interesting ride to go on. So I'm not going to speak to necessarily my favorite or anything, but I want to say that it's been a fun first half. So let's see what everybody else thinks.
So Ian, do you have a favorite and a least favorite in that first set?
I do have a favorite. It was the double maple.
Okay.
For me, the least favorite, I think, was the decadent. It was just way too much cinnamon for me. Maybe it didn't hold up as well, and it just kind of tasted off, I think. Off and too much cinnamon.
How about you, Joel? Do you have a favorite between the first and the 7th beer, somewhere in there?
I was a big fan of the special roast. As far as like mouthfeel, it was kind of the thickest, most viscous option out there, and I really enjoyed that. I wasn't a fan of the one with Baker's chocolate. The decadent. Yeah, the decadent. There was just, for me, it was just too much cinnamon. Not a bad beer at all, of course, but it more reminded me of my grandmother's cookies, and I wasn't a fan of those.
That's fair. And we can say that a lot of this is the aging process. For that decadent. A lot of those other flavors, the coffee, the chocolate, has kind of fallen off a little bit. And so what you're left with is that cinnamon, which is a little overpowering at this point, where as opposed to fresh, that would have been a well-balanced sort of beer. So, Andy, what were your favorites and least favorites?
Well, I'll go with two favorites, actually. I have to agree with Joel on the special roast. It was one of my favorite variants coming out fresh out of the box, out of the gate, out of Mikerphone. I enjoy the viscous mouthfeel as much as Joel does. So it's one of the big things for me with an Imperial Stout. That and also the vanilla. A little bit of vanilla usually goes a long way in a beer, and it's going to last over time. So that's what held up. But I think the overall consensus that we pretty much agreed upon is most of these variants should be drinking fresh. Drink them fresh, because those flavors are going to fade over time.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jim, but that's something I say here at 1840 all the time, is that we've already done the hard waiting. Whether that's brewing a beer with a lot of adjuncts and letting it come to that perfect middle point where you want it to be, where the beer tastes like everything you want it to be, or whether that's putting it in a barrel for a long time. We release beers when they're ready, and I feel like a lot of these beers tonight, I guarantee would have been amazing fresh, and they've held up incredibly. I'm not gonna lie. It's interesting to see. I wish I could have been there on both sides.
That's the exact same sentiments that are echoed by Anello up in Central Waters. By the way, take a listen back to that episode where, again, he rails on winemakers where they make you do all the heavy lifting of aging wines, while brewers, they do all the work for you. So drink your beer fresh. And drink it, keep it cold, drink it fresh, right? Is that the line, Kyle?
Drink cold, drink fresh. It's on all of my bottles that I care to tell you that about. We have a lot of bottles that'll age great without that care. You can let them sit at room temperature or cooler, and they'll be great. But for anything that we care about, we put that on the bottle because I want you to know that. Like, hey, I already did the hard work. Just drink it now.
But if you can get two, drink one fresh and age one.
Hey, it's all in the name of science.
Right? Yeah. And don't fucking complain if the second one goes bad.
For sure.
Yeah, but I'm right with everyone. The Decadent just, even though it's just a few months old, did not hold up at all. We all know that coffee just doesn't hold up as an adjunct, but holy cow, it just dropped off on that one. But the Café con Leche, that was a fantastic beer. Still well balanced after these months. That beer was absolutely my favorite so far.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo a couple of you guys. I think the special roast, I think it was the type of coffee, or maybe it was the amount of coffee, but the coffee has held on that one more than some of the other ones that we've tried, and that one was fantastic. The mouthfeel, as you guys have talked about, fantastic. But also that Café con Leche, I think that one might be my favorite at this point, and possibly was coming after the Decadent, which was my least favorite for the reasons that Ian talked about, the cinnamon being a little too overpowering and a little bit out of step. But that's what you're going to get with these adjuncts. When you've got the adjuncts that are going into the beer, they're going to fall off, and the beer's going to become something different, which is fun for the experimentation. Drinking one now, putting one in your cellar for later. But sometimes that experiment is not as successful as you would want it to be, and that all leads us into the barrel aging process. And Kyle, I think you can talk to this more expertly than the rest of us.
Sure.
Because you're an expert in barrel aging and the blending.
We do a little bit of that.
We're doing a live tasting right now of the Barrel Aged Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit. This came out for the Smells Like a Beer Fest with the Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit. What kind of flavors are you getting out of this, and how do you think it held up in the barrels and as well as the cellar aging?
So I think the special thing about barrel aging is it concentrates flavors. And what we found here with this particular one, we're all looking at each other right now being like, damn, this is good. And I think that's because when you give the beer, when you give any beer the time it needs in a barrel, you're going to end up with this concentration of flavors and something that's just everything you hope it's going to be for these shorter term adjunct beers, right? So, we put syrup or all these vanilla or whatever in a beer, and we hope it's going to taste like this now. But it takes that time of evaporation, barrel aging, to really round everything out. And this is an exceptional example of what time can do.
So when you're designing a beer for the barrel, what kind of factors do you take in to try to deal with the concentration?
Well, that's kind of a hard thing because, while I have been barrel aging beers for a number of years in my career, like I don't have a ton of beers that have been in barrels for years, right? So now we're starting to, finally we've been open a year and a half, we're starting to have these beers that have been barrels for over a year, and we're starting to learn what these flavors can do and how the concentration can come into play. You know, there's a lot of people that are trying to release barrel-aged beers in a short amount of time, and they're missing out on what can be something great by selling it too early. And I think with this version of this beer, I can tell that they took the time to make sure that it was exactly what they wanted it to be before they sold the barrel-aged version of this brand.
So the longer that it sits in the barrel, the more wood you're going to pull out of it, and more flavoring, right?
Yeah, and then there's the whole angel share concept where, you know, you have evaporation over time. And really, the evaporation of the water concentrates the flavors, and that's where you get all these special, nuanced flavors you cannot get from just making beer in 2 weeks in a stainless steel tank.
So, Ian, what are you pulling out of this barrel-aged Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit that maybe you weren't pulling out of some of the other ones?
It just seems like everything holds up better in the barrel, and the barrel kind of adds to it. It's a simple mix. There's nothing funky in there. No additional flavorings. It's just all kind of natural, and you pull the flavor from the barrel.
So, Joel, when we talked to Mikerphone, which was a fantastic episode for us, again, as we've said all along, we implore you to go back and check out that episode where we talked to them about what went into that barreling process. How successful do you think they were on the barrel aging on this beer?
Oh, very much so, I think. It's an extremely balanced beer. You can pick up the maple, you can pick up the barrel, you can pick up the coffee, and in all, balanced ways. Like, nothing, I think, for me at least, pops out as too much. It seems like it's a perfect mix for me.
Yeah, for me, there's definitely some interesting interplay between the oak, the vanillins from the barrel, the bourbon from the barrel, and the maple. How they're interplaying together as they dance across the top of the stout. It is very interesting. Again, I think this beer is, like most of these Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit, you got to drink it fresh. Even though most bourbon barrel aged beers you can age, this is one that you got to still drink fresh if you still have it.
I agree with Jim. It's a perfect overlay of flavors. They just meld into one another. It's simple, it's smooth. The barrel aging lends a lot to everything that has to do with the Imperial Bean Spirit. Not to mention, they wrapped around an epic beer festival right in an industrial park in Chicago, like outskirts of Chicago, around this beer, and had breweries from all over the country come with their best stuff.
It was one of the best parts about Mikerphone is the number of collaborations that they've done and the amount of brewers that they were able to pull in for that beer festival. And I say, like, I want to just say, like Kyle said, the flavors have been really well concentrated. I think this is possibly the best beer I've had all night. Not the best of part one, because this is definitely part of part two. And I think the really fun part about part two is we're getting fresher. So these adjuncts are going to be holding on a little bit better, whereas in part one, some of those adjuncts have fallen off. So really excited to get into part two, and I think we're about ready.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Yeah. We're back with Kyle at 1840s and his bag of bark. Kyle?
We got a big old bag of bark here. What we're really looking at is some whole Vietnamese Saigon cinnamon. It's called cassia cinnamon. And it's the bark. What we got is, it looks like bark. It's crazy. I mean, you guys can vouch for this. It looks like bark, doesn't it?
It looks
Well,
insane.
it is literally the bark of a tree, because that's where cinnamon comes from.
And so that's, I guess, what it should look like, eh?
Yeah. This is where the name Cassia comes from.
That's right.
Oh, it smells amazing.
Insane.
Oh, it really smells
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so we recently used
Shit.
this. We used a couple of pounds in an Imperial Stout that we're working on right now. It has habaneros, guajillo, and ancho peppers in it. It has, it's gonna get cocoa nibs, Mexican coffee, Mexican vanilla beans. It's our Mexican stout we're working on right now. So it'll be fun. It's interesting that that's a beer we're working on while we're also drinking through these incredible micro variants of all these beers. So thank you guys for coming and trying our great, crazy ingredients.
And I think that's a great lead into what we've been doing so far, which is our Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit tasting. We got into a little bit of a conversation about some of the adjuncts that are going into these beers, and that's where this demonstration by Kyle came from. So welcome to the third portion of our Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit tasting. We're going to talk about the beers that we tried in level 2. Level 1 was amazing. Level 2, even fresher, even more amazing. And we're going to finish it all off with the Vanilla Noise. But before we do that, let's talk about some of the beers that we've tried. So the barrel aged Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit, we've tried that one. We've kind of talked about it. I want to say probably my favorite beer of the entire experience. Anybody else?
Win of the night. Win
Definitely.
of the night.
Slam dunk.
All right, but besides that, in the second half here, we've also tried the maple bacon. We've tried the hazelnut. We've tried the blueberry. We've tried the super bean. We've tried the marshmallow, and we'll finish it off live with the Vanilla Noise. So, any favorites? Any least favorites? How about Kyle? Let's start with you.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that I appreciate what Mikerphone has done with series here. And if you're going to dabble in meat beers, fuck yeah, good luck, do it. We're never going to make a meat beer here at 1840, but it's been fun to taste through all these things and try all these different adjuncts. And so we tried a beer with meat tonight. It was quite interesting.
Maybe the least successful. Would you say that, Andy?
I would definitely say the least successful in the second half. What I'm interested in is, Kyle, you're in negotiations for a collaboration beer, right?
Yeah, Mike and I have been talking. We've got a beer that we've planned, and we're just trying to set a date. So I'm hoping that Mike's going to call me up and solidify that, because my team's ready.
I assume no meat.
No meat. No, definitely no meat.
Ian and Joel, what do you think about the second half of beers that we've tried? And do you have any favorites and any least favorites?
Second half's been great. Favorite, I think I would have to say was the barrel aged, but that was like the middle, not the second half. Favorite of the second half would have to be the marshmallow.
Yeah.
I get I burnt the marshmallow on the stick. It's a really good experience for me to drink it, and love the flavor.
It was straight up like sitting around a campfire eating marshmallow.
A total s'more.
Summer
It
with
was
the
really
family.
more s'mores than
Fucking
marshmallow.
toasted before you put it on the
Summer
chocolate graham
with the
cracker.
family. Kid burnt the marshmallow. Hey, get out of the fire kind of thing. You know?
I'm like, I got that. I got you.
I got you.
But I will say absolutely, this goes to show, again, that we've been talking about through this entire night. The fresher the beer, the better it's been as we progressed from our most aged beer to this most now freshest beer, hardly a few weeks old. And the adjuncts, the beer itself is fresher, the adjuncts are fresher. Drink your Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit the day you get it, because it's the best it's going to be.
I gotta say though, with one caveat, the barrel aged version.
Oh,
And so
Barrel-aged
if you
can
can
get
get,
aged,
if you can find those adjunct stouts
find
with that barrel aged time on them, you're probably gonna appreciate it more, because we sure fucking did tonight.
That show's fucking phenomenal.
Where are you going to get that?
You can't anymore, ever.
Oh, yeah.
Trade for it or something.
If you got it, hang on to it.
Yeah, for sure. No, the barrel aged version are gonna age very well.
Yeah. So, Joel, any least favorite beers that you've had so far, especially in the second half?
Kind of everyone's pointing at the maple bacon. As far as least favorite, that was definitely my least favorite. My first and only meat beer was not a good experience, I would say.
Meat beer.
But I'm a huge fan of the whole Smells Like Bean Spirit
Meat
series.
sweats.
The barrel aged was amazing. The marshmallow was also great. The toasted marshmallow flavor that came out was nice. I was also a fan of the super Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit. Very balanced for me. The taste was there. I like strong flavors, and so that was probably my favorite, with the barrel aged coming in a close second.
So, Andy, for the lineup for the second half, we had the barrel aged Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit, which we did at the halftime. We did the maple bacon. We did the hazelnuts. We did the blueberry, the super bean, the marshmallow, and the Vanilla Noise coming in last. What was your favorite? What was your least favorite?
I haven't gotten to the Vanilla Noise yet, but honestly, the The marshmallow was about the best it has been in the second half for me.
Definitely the freshest.
And that's kind of the theme we've gone on, is the freshest. The marshmallow and the super bean were the freshest tonight, and they're pretty good. Maple bacon was definitely last for me. Just, I don't know, I've heard a lot of good things about it when it was fresh, but not so much tonight.
Last overall or last in the second half?
I almost have to go last overall on it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that.
It's like almost like you said, artificial smoke flavoring. The blueberry was it. I'm not a fan of blueberries and stouts overall, but it was kind of like a blueberry syrup. Blueberry syrup you're gonna put on top of pancakes. It would be good on top of some pancakes or with breakfast, but it's definitely something you're gonna want to share with your friends.
How about you, Jim?
Obviously, the maple bacon was really kind of it didn't work out for me. Kyle,
especially in the aging, let's say.
Yeah, so Kyle, that beer was clearly a risk beer, right?
Yes.
I mean, as a brewer, especially in this day and age, you have to be different. Mm-hmm. You have to take risks.
Sure.
So how do you, as a brewer, handle trying to take a risk such as doing a meat beer?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a strict no meat beer policy here at 1840. I mean, maybe if we're getting crazy someday, we'll do an oyster stout, but I'm not promising anything.
Why?
Yeah, but I mean, especially because with a lot of your barrel aging and some of your house, your crazy house culture.
Yeah.
I mean, that can get pretty insane.
Yeah, and we have some of our house culture gets real smoky. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. No, I mean, just as a brewer, I mean, you got to try to differentiate yourself in the market.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to have wins and sometimes you're not. So just do you learn from those losses, or those not? They're not necessarily a loss, right? It's a not win.
Here's the thing. I feel that anybody who's trying our beer is a win for us, right? Like, if we got our beer into somebody's hands, that's a win. And we love feedback. So we listen to our customers and we look at what they're saying. And if they try a beer that they didn't like, we appreciate that feedback and we look for it to help us improve our products going forward.
So for me, I would say, as everybody said, the least successful is obviously the maple bacon. But I want to say, what I saw on Facebook, on social media with Mikerphone, was that this was a big risk for them. And they would not have released that beer if it didn't taste very good fresh. And from everything that I've seen and everything that I've read, it was a fantastic beer fresh.
All of these beers tonight have really been pretty solid. There's nothing that I've been like, ooh, this is bad. This has been really to go through this journey.
I would say just kudos to Mike overall, because most of these beers, while the adjuncts have fallen off a little bit, they've all been really, really fucking good.
For sure.
And you know what? That's what's going to happen. Is adjuncts are going to fall off over time. The freshest is going to be better than the oldest.
Yeah.
And overall, dude, successful. Nobody else is going to be able to experience this ever again in this amount of people. I think the only people that have this are few.
Yeah, not even Mike at Mikerphone has this, and he said that himself. I think one of the most successful beers for me, and it's not necessarily a thrilling success, but the blueberry Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit. I've tried blueberry beers before. I'm not a huge fan, especially the Lizard of Kaz was a complete miss. But I would say that the blueberry Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit tastes better than any blueberry stout that I've ever tasted. And that's after a bit of aging. There's some things going on in there. The blueberry's a little more subtle. The coffee and the maple kind of take over a little bit. It's more successful than any I've ever tried, but also not necessarily my favorite out of the entire lineup. Anybody have that experience? Anybody else digging that blueberry, or is everybody else kind of off the blueberry?
Yeah, no, that was pretty much you.
Yeah, we're not.
You,
digging
dude.
the blueberry.
Yeah.
Well, as far as a breakfast beer too, I'd be interested what that would have tasted like with an actual set of pancakes and some bacon.
Yeah, I mean, it was more IHOP blueberry syrup than it was blueberry pancake, right? I mean, there's a big difference there with the syrupy sweetness versus a subtle blueberry underlying with grain.
Well, that's fair. What about the hazelnut? Because again, I'm a big fan of hazelnuts. I don't think a person can put too much hazelnut in their beer before I can stop drinking it. So I really enjoyed the hazelnut Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit, and very much like some of the other hazelnut beers I've tried, it starts to pick up some coconut flavors. Did anybody else enjoy that hazelnut as much as I did?
Mm-hmm. I think all of us do. I do for sure. I mean, and I think so. I love the hazelnut flavor. It almost tastes like coconut, but it's real disguising of the hazelnut flavor.
I would say for me, I'm not a super huge fan of hazelnut, and I was getting some toasted coconut flavor. Honestly, I mean, it was a really good beer for you and 21 of your closest friends to have an ounce each. Honestly, I mean, it was just good, flavorful, bold beer, but an ounce was pretty much all I could take.
And I was getting a lot of coconut out of it as well. Personally, I'm not a huge coconut fan, so I didn't enjoy it, but that was because of personal taste, not because of the quality of the beer.
I think barrel aging, if they barrel age that beer, it could lend a lot to that coconut quality of the hazelnut.
All right, and that brings us into our freshest beer, which was that marshmallow. So far, the consensus has been marshmallow might have been one of the best ones we've tried all night. Do you think that's because it was the freshest one that we tried all night, or do you think that was the best adjunct that has ever been put into an Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit?
I would say it was probably a combination of both. Again, as we've experienced throughout this entire night, the fresher you get your Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit variant, the better it's going to be. And Marshmallow was really good. Just the stout, the base stout itself seemed brighter. And then you layer that on, this kind of s'mores layers, this campfire, hanging out in summer. It was really, really, really tasty.
And I think that brings us to the vanilla noise. So let's go around the table and give our live feedback on what we think of the vanilla noise. Let's start with you, Jim.
Yeah, Holy Batman vanilla. This is so much vanilla. I'm finding it a bit overpowering for myself, but Andy, I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Well, the vanilla was extreme to begin with on the vanilla noise. It settled down a lot from where
This
it was.
is settled.
No, yeah, this is settled. Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness.
I'd be very interested to try the barrel aged vanilla noise.
Sure,
That
can't
might
wait.
have taken on some charred flavors a little more. Maybe the vanilla from the barrel would have.
The vanillins
would've-
might have
Yes.
modified
would've settled
the
in
vanilla.
some of that other vanilla.
sure would.
But also, that's a lot of vanilla.
Was it tasty?
I did not care for this for the first time that I tasted it, which was very fresh.
Smooth.
This has been aged a little while, and I'll tell you what, the vanilla is not aged in well enough for me to say that this was a successful beer.
And I'd like to see what this would taste like with some Oreos
Oh,
next to it.
okay.
I think together that would be really great. On its own, there's a lot
Oh,
of
man.
vanilla, but yeah, with the cookie, I think that might be a good addition.
So let's go through the second half. We've got the barrel aged Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit, the maple bacon, the hazelnut, the blueberry, the super bean, the marshmallow, the vanilla noise. What would we say were our favorites, and what would we say were our least favorites of the entire night, including the regular bean spirit, the Imperial bean spirit, the vanilla bean spirit, the double maple, the decadent, the cafe con leche, the special roast, and then leading into the barrel aged Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit. Kyle,
That was a serious mouthful, Alex.
so of the night, what would you say were your most successful beers as far as the aging process goes,
Sure.
and your least successful beers?
My most, I had nothing to do with any of these beers.
This is satisfying.
But I would say that my most successful beer of the evening was whichever one these guys like the best.
Oh, such a cop out.
Such a cop out. I feel like I'm Jim Gaffigan.
So we'll come back to Kyle.
Yeah.
Pretend
Pretend that never happened. I'm gonna go take care of all my super thoughtful and friendly customers.
All right,
What
Ian.
chair left for the evening?
Let's point out the brewery is empty.
It was closed about an hour and a half ago.
Ian's suddenly regretting winning this contest tonight.
We thought we were
He's
gonna
like,
wrap it all up
I
during
am-
our open hours, but
I
you
am
know.
blessed to be standing next to Kyle. As far as his mouthful goes.
It's a fucking win.
I'm blessed to have you all here. I'm blessed.
For
I'm blessed.
Ian, this was the best of times. This was the worst times.
I've been there, yeah. By far my favorite was the barrel age, but the second favorite, probably the hazelnut, just because I like hazelnut.
And least favorite for the evening?
Maple bacon.
Joel, what are your thoughts on tonight's lineup?
Well, as far as the bacon one, we've had a sampling of cheeses and sausages here that have paired well with the maple bacon one. On its own, it probably was not my favorite, but I'd be curious what it would have tasted like, perhaps fresher, since that had aged a bit. I was a big fan of the marshmallow one with the whole s'mores flavoring with it, and then again with the barrel aged and the super imperial. I don't know; those are my top three. I can't really say which one I liked more.
You know, for me, actually, my favorite really was the Café con Leche. That beer, even after several months, was so balanced. That's what really struck me of all these beers. They're over-top beers. I mean, the Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit is an over-top the beer. It's unabashed. But the Café con Leche was really balanced with the lactose and the caramel, even after several months. Though the barrel age obviously was a slam dunk. I mean, that was a great beer. The big loser was the bacon maple.
Andy, how about you? What was your favorite from the first half? What was your favorite from the second half?
Well, second half we started off with barrel age, so that was a
Winner.
a fucking win and a half. First half, I mean, dude, I really can't say. I mean, probably the Café con Leche, like Jim said, just because it held up the best. Mikerphone, Mike, I love your beers, but they're not meant to age. They're really not, unless they're in a barrel.
I mean, not even age. I mean, it's like weeks.
I don't know about weeks, but I mean, the Super Bean is out like 3-4 months. That was still really good. Once you get up over that 6 month to 12 month range, it's 6 to 12. You're iffy on what you're doing.
All right, I would agree with Andy. Café con Leche, definitely the best from the first half. I would say either the marshmallow, which was the freshest, or the Super Bean was the best from the second half. But honestly, the halftime event took the show. The Barrel Age Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit, by far the best thing that Mikerphone may have ever done. Discounting some of their other barrel aged beers, which are also fantastic. But I think that's going to do it for us.
Are we out of beer?
I think we're out of beer, Jim.
Well, that's not true. I'll hook you guys up. You're good.
Okay. Well, we will have some other beers.
Not Mikerphone.
Joel, coming to this event today as our guest, brought a Dark Lord, so we'll be doing that one off camera.
2015. 2015. Yeah.
2015 Dark Lord. So we've got some things to still try, but that's going to do it for us for beers for now. For me, for Alex.
I'm Jim.
Andy here.
This is Kyle.
Ian.
And Joel.
That's going to do it for us, and this has been another solid non-fail production.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much, guys.
Hey, cheers, guys.
Hey, cheers. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome in.
He said